Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinn. Time right now is 9:08 Eastern, 6:08 Pacific on this July 4th. And we do continue with one of the major headlines, which is that President Biden has vowed to keep running for re-election, rejecting growing pressure from the Democrats as they are facing growing pressure to withdraw after his weak debate performance, which raised questions about whether he is fit to run for president. Two Democratic lawmakers have called on Biden to exit the race, while a mega Democratic donor has publicly suggested how the party might choose someone else. Senior aides said they believed Biden might only have a matter of days to show that he is up to the challenge. I do want to bring in Joe Karasin, who is the owner of the PR firm at Karasin PPC, to talk more about this crisis communication strategy. Joe, thank you so much for taking the time on this July 4th to join us.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie.
Absolutely. So as an expert in this field, dealing with maybe businesses, organizations, individuals who really are in a crisis, when you take a look at the scope of what the Democratic Party and President Biden are facing, how would you characterize what is happening?
So one of the things that I think as we, from like the time that the debate happened up until, kind of right now, what we're seeing is sort of a lack of synchronization among different members of the Democratic Party, the governors, everybody, so there's been I think like there's obviously some that are, kind of on message with President Biden in the White House saying, no, he's our guy. He's going to run. We need him. And then you have some that are not, and I think that the Democratic Party is having a hard time reining in all of that communication, which in this kind of situation, you really do need that kind of harmonious communication, whether the message is President Biden needs to step down or the message is he's going to continue fighting and winning or running, then, everybody needs to kind of get on the same page. And right now they're not.
Right. Having that singular message in a time of a crisis is so important. We've heard time and time again from the White House press briefing to a number of governors, even President Biden himself, really downplaying this controversy, the concerns, the call for him to step down. From your expert angle, when we hear all of the conversation that is continuing to expand, would you characterize this as a crisis or just a concerning situation? What words would you use?
Yeah, so I think crisis is a strong word for this. Now, in the sense that, for those of us that are watching this happen, crisis is strong. Internally, definitely a crisis, because they still haven't, it's been how many days now since the debate, and they still haven't been able to quell these rumors, this conjecture, everything that's going on. So internally, I would characterize it as a crisis. Externally, I think that unfortunately for the president, it's confirmed a lot of biases or thoughts people kind of already had concerning his fitness in terms of running. And so, he of course needs to be the lead on this. In terms of communicating this to the American people, that he's fit to run and serve as president for another 4 years.
And it really all starts from the top, specifically at this point. President Biden, if he were a client of yours, what would you suggest that he do to really quell the concerns? And instead of having everyone focus on these particular questions, face forward to the task at hand?
Yeah, I think that there's been attempts to do that. I can see, like you mentioned, the downplaying of some of it. I think the president, would do well to acknowledge that the debate performance was not optimal. You can't ignore the donkey in the room or the elephant in the room, depending on your party. You then need to, then focus on things that are important, and the issues of the actual election. I think continuing to set a contrast between himself and Donald Trump is a good way to do that, because to the extent that you can, the extent they're very different people, and they're very different approaches they're going to take to a lot of issues. So I think that over time, if you continue to kind of stay on those messages, those would be things I would do. But it has to come from the president. I've advised company leaders, CEOs, that you are the chief PR officer of your company. You are the chief communications officer. You're kind of the chief everything when you're the CEO. And the president is the CEO of the government. So he needs to take the lead in these communications and not rely on, governors to talk for him or others. He needs to really kind of step forward and give a strong messaging out to the public, so that way they understand that he's ready to go. That, I guess, is the best way I can put it.
Two questions for you. One is, President Biden, it did take, a little bit, but he did finally address his poor debate performance, saying, I may be a little bit older, I may not speak as well, but I don't lie. How do you recommend using humor in a situation such as this? Is that a good strategy, or could that come back to hurt President Biden as he is, trying to make light a little bit of his poor debate performance?
I think President Biden has a personality, or a public persona, that lends itself to some humor. So I don't think that it's a bad thing to throw small kind of self-deprecating jabs at himself once in a blue moon about it. I think that it does kind of put the mind at ease for, the general public, that he gets it. I think a joke is always good to kind of show that you understand the situation, and that you are, not as concerned about it as some other people are. And in this situation, a little bit of humor can help. So I don't downplay the positive effect that could have.
And then also another question, because there were concerns that perhaps President Biden overextends himself. I mean, he even said, hey, look, I've been back-to-back trips to Europe. I'm jet lagged. I've been a little run ragged. Would you recommend him pulling back from as many public appearances, or could that actually backfire, creating further concern as to why isn't he showing himself in public? What's really going on? How would you recommend him navigating that?
Well, you see it with Vice President Harris, right? There's always been a lot of like, where is she? What is she doing? Because she's not as out front, for a while there throughout the first term. So I don't know. Now I wouldn't recommend it. I would have recommended it before, because obviously other people should have, his team should see this happening. If he prepped for 6 or 7 days prior, to the debate, like they're saying at Camp David, they should have noticed that there was, something, that he was tired or jet lagged or whatever. But they probably could have seen that before too, and probably could have said, what, for the next few weeks, let's curtail some of this. Obviously as a president, there's certain things you have to go do. But, there are times I've seen, I remember, President Obama would send Vice President Biden out to do things a lot. And, so that I think that in those situations, I would recommend it. But now that this has become such a public thing, a public issue, I don't know if curtailing appearances is really even possible for now.
Joe, before we let you go, anything else from that PR, from that crisis communication standpoint that really stands out to you as we continue to see this issue grow?
I think, I think that one of the things that I kind of mentioned earlier, and I think it just bears repeating, you have to get on the same page. Everybody's got to be on the same page in this situation. It doesn't help to have, one governor saying, oh, well, I'm scared, or, even fundraisers and people like that coming out and saying like, oh, I can't, we can't let him do this. He's, he should step down. You know, figure out what that message needs to be and then get everybody on the same page, because otherwise it's going to continue to be a distraction from the campaign for the president.
Joe, thank you so much for taking the time to really share with us from that crisis communication PR standpoint everything that has been going on. This is a major headline, no doubt, continuing to develop over the next days, weeks, even possibly months. So we appreciate you taking the time to join us on this July 4th.
Thanks for having me, and happy 4th of July.
Absolutely. And same to you.